Hey YouTube, this is a video response to King Heathen's video where he was asked to rate and rank, essentially, 6 arguments for Christianity. And I was originally taking notes on Notepad to form the basis of a YouTube comment. Then I realized there was no way 500 characters was going to be able to cut it. So it then became, instead of just sort of condensing a couple of things into expanding and rambling, and so I'm going to try and edit this to make this a little more coherent, but I'm going to give it a shot. If you didn't see the video of what the arguments are, you really need to understand, because there's just too much time in trying to explain all the arguments. But here's my takes on these arguments. Pretty much they all seem like the same tired old arguments. I don't see any originality in them. They are combinations and remixes of the same tired crap. One of the videos stated that men are still the same old cavemen that they once were, and the whole assessment that men are the same old cavemen, essentially what they're trying to point out is that people are ignorant and stupid on top of it all. And this actually punches a huge hole in their argument by attempting to appeal to reason to believe in an invisible man in the sky. But you're stupid and ignorant? No, not working. One of the videos says that he's going to show us the love of God in his words to comfort and guide us back to God. Words are not enough to show love. You need to put that love into action. Everybody, I'm not going to get into the cliches, because cliches really don't advance the conversation. It's just a little snippet, done. Because I could go around and say, I love you, and then beat you to a bloody pulp. How loving does that sound? It doesn't. It sounds like your standard abusive relationship. Oh, I love you, honey. I'll never hit you again. Oh, but you've made me angry. Then another one of the arguments goes into this thing about the father-in-law did not believe in God, and on his deathbed he supposedly accepts God. That the person advancing this argument says is somehow an acceptance of God. And this one thing was a single tear rolling down his cheek right before he dies. That's just interpretation of what you see. For all we know, the guy was in pain when he died. It could have been just a physical response before the rest of the body system shut down. And then there's also the possibility that he was conscious that he's going to die 100%, no getting around it, right before your death, realizing, oh yeah, I am going to die and cease to be. People have a fear of death. They may say they don't, but they do. Nobody really wants to die. And this everlasting life concept brought about by religion, that after you die you are now immortal and in heaven or hell depending on your life, is a beautiful example of fear of death. You're not really going to die, you're just going to go to another plane of existence. The last two of the 6 arguments were probably the ones that I found the most offensive. They're just really bad arguments. Here's some notes I started taking on it. I'm going to read a little bit back and forth, and it starts with the whole circular logic of the Bible says. The Bible says this, the Bible says that, and this is proof of God. Then it goes on to say that the Bible is the most historically substantiated book ever. This sounds like something a lolcat would tell me, but hey. And then it goes on about It's wonderful because people have been saved by Christianity today, and this is supposed to be another proof of its authority and its existence, that because people can turn their lives around by believing in Christianity, or any religion for that matter, but the specifics were Christianity, that their life is better. But I guess they've never heard of the placebo effect. One of my lovely little favorite lines out of that one was a quote, "Scientifically, believing in God is saner than not doing so." Scientifically and saner, because, well, number one, you have something that's really subjective and more sane than the other being subjected to science, and it's not like something is more alkaline or acidic than the other. It's not something that is quantifiable. And just because something's more right or more wrong doesn't necessarily mean it's any better. If you start looking at it, the majority of the Academy of Sciences are atheists. Then there's countries with higher literacy rates, overall better record for higher education, have higher rates of atheism. And goes on with the creation argument. The Big Bang somehow equals abiogenesis and evolution. The whole nothing exploded and nothing happened and created everything. Well, that's not actually what science says. This whole nothing then creates everything is actually what creationism says. It's an incorrect interpretation of science. Goes on with the second law of thermodynamics, and that systems always head to entropy or disorder rather than order. And if you think about it, wouldn't, if there was actually nothing, be a lot more ordered? Then suddenly there's a bunch of planets all jockeying for position around the orbit of Solaris, which is our sun. Oh yes, science changes its mind. God is always certain piece of crap argument. But science evaluates evidence we have available. And we may have to reconsider what we know about the world. It doesn't change its mind. Changing its mind is an opinion. I could not stand to read any more of the argument. It just disintegrated from there. And I can't help but think that I have forgotten more from my high school physics class than the author ever knew to start with. It's an incorrect interpretation of science. Of course, the last one, submission number 6, is more of the whole same old nothing came from nothing, exploded into everything. And then there's the whole thing about if anything exists today, it had to have always existed, because there's no such thing as a beginning without God. And then goes into the whole, a tornado blows into a hangar full of airplane parts, and after some, I think it said 100 million years or something, over a long time, since I don't remember what exactly it said, you suddenly have a bunch of completed planes. Well, that's not how evolution works, for starters. It's an incorrect interpretation of science. Of course, it goes on that science can offer explanations of life, but not meaning. As if somehow we can't give meaning to our own lives. Nobody said science is supposed to be concerned with anything but how did it start. Science has never made the claim that science can tell you how to live your life. And then, of course, he equates communism and Nazism to atheism. Hitler was a Christian who was aided by the Vatican, another Christian establishment. Oh, but Catholicism or this sect and that sect is not true Christians. See the no true Scotsman argument. Anybody that wields that kind of power to let innocent people suffer and be beaten, murdered, raped to get my attention, that's a totalitarian argument. You're going to try and use that after saying, people like Hitler and Stalin were terrible. who were totalitarian leaders and try to get me to go and believe in an even higher totalitarian leader? Are you nuts? But that's just my 2 cents worth. It's an incorrect interpretation of science.